Hello everyone, we are in Elio Ticca studio in CU, Bâtiment H, and this is the fourth episode of the Not So Secret Club series. And today Elio, which is a painter, and Ioannis Pallas will talk about their work and the relationship between painting and photography. Welcome.
Hello, good morning. Thank you everyone for being here. And so welcome to my studio at CU. It's a big pleasure to host Ioannis Pallas, a photographer and a friend. And today we will talk about, as Veronica has said, the relationship between painting and photography that really affects our work, artistic work, and our everyday life also. So thank you very much, Ioannis, for taking part to this conversation. So let's just start with a hard question. Has painting affected your photographic practice and your work? How do you relate with painting and art history in your photographic practice?
Thank you, Elio. Thank you for inviting me. And indeed, cool question. I think that the way that a photographer approaches his or her work is quite different than the one when it comes to painting. Where a painter sees a frame and sees a specific area that has to fill with details, a photographer sees the whole universe, the whole world. Especially when he or she does street photography, like I do, instead of arranging elements inside a frame, we try to find the right moment to click, and that, in the sense of the absurdity of everyday life, we try to find a balance to the whole chaos around us. So I would say that the process is quite different in the things that we see and the moment in which we photograph, but definitely there's huge influence to photography by painting, like it's the way with most arts.
Okay, brilliant. And actually, as you were discussing earlier when we met, we were reflecting upon the difference between painting and photography. While taking a photo, you will have to decide when to push the button. When you're painting, you will have to really have a clear idea of what image to paint, to depict on the canvas. We can somewhat. Would you think do you think there is a certain similarity of the process between pushing the button and deciding what image to portray on a canvas?
I think it has definitely some similarities in the fact that a photographer, when he goes out on the street, he has all these patterns, all these images in his or her mind. So when he sees something that is familiar and it makes sense, it makes perfect balance, he wants to take the picture. So definitely there is something already in their mind, but when we do photograph, when we do click, there cannot be any thought. It's like a Zen moment. It's a moment without any before or after. Your head has to remain clear at that time. There's a lot of thinking and reading before and after, but while photographing, it should be a clear moment in order for it to be a success.
Brilliant, yeah, that's very interesting. I think we'll take into consideration this moment. We'll reflect upon it later on. So my second question is, we live in an iconosphere, let's call it like that, many people call it like that, in a field of vision where everyone is submerged by hundreds of images every day through social media, etc. How do you relate to this? Do you stay, do you try to keep say away from this bombardment of images every day, or how do you cope with it, with this status quo?
I think it's too late. I think we are so much submerged into images, as you yourself mentioned. I think we are born into images. From the moment that we are born, we are being taken a picture all the time by our relatives, for example. And as we grow up, we are exposed to so many images through television, newspapers, magazines, now social media. So even before the growth of technology, there were images around us all the time. It's impossible to get out of them, and I don't think that it makes sense to try to get out of them. What, in my opinion, makes sense is to try and surround ourselves with as many good images as possible, to watch movies that have good cinematography, to buy art that is nice, to have posters in our in the place where we live and we see every day of things that are beautiful. That will make us more sane and will make us more able to produce better images ourselves. But I would have to argue that we need images in order to produce other images, and that images also help us interpret other images as well. But in general, I would say that the quality of images has definitely improved lately. I remember growing up in the 80s and 90s, and back then the quality of images, both technically and aesthetically, was pretty bad. Nowadays, fashion photography, travel photography, photojournalism, the images that are mostly produced around us, they are of much better quality, and I think that helps with our artistic evolution as well.
Brilliant. So that really connects to the third question that I would like to make you, really about inspiration. There is a lot of sacralization around it, the inspiration coming from somewhere, but I mean, to me, there's just work. You just have to work and do the job. But as you were saying, like images affect our everyday practice, our inspiration, imagination, imagery, somewhat fantasy. How do you find this muse apart from good images surrounding our lives? Like, and which artists and photographers have affected your work as a photographer?
I think when the muse doesn't knock our door, when we don't have inspiration, we have to go look for it. It's something definitely to strive for. I think that I discovered photography because I wanted to become a film director, and at the time I thought that knowing how to make a film requires you to know how to deal with photography. So films is something that has affected me definitely a lot in the past, especially Italian and French directors from the 60s and 70s. Japanese cinema and also American cinema, but other aspects of art have definitely had huge influence in my photographs, especially contemporary dance. I think of dance when I photograph, and also music. I love Baroque music, and especially the work of Bach helps me keep a pace, both when I photograph and also when I'm alone in front of my laptop editing my pictures. I think it's definitely important for every artist to have as many influences as possible, and the influences that we have affect our work and make our work distinct. But definitely not only the influences from your own medium. For example, I could come up with many names of many photographers that I admire, but also other aspects, other mediums as well can really help find your own way into your art.
You're poetic somewhat. And that's great. For instance, like give us some names of photographers and artists that you liked.
I'm a street photographer myself, so my main influences came from street photographers. Eugene Adze will never characterize himself as a street photographer, but definitely he's a huge influence of mine. Photographers like Henri Cartier-Bresson, Walker Evans, Manuel Alvarez Bravo, who did street photography like me, are huge influences, but also other photographers like the Ian Arbus or Lee Friedlander, Joel Meyerowitz. They have definitely influenced the way I see the world around me. Even if I don't do the same genre of photography as they do, still I have lots of elements that I gain from them. And I forget here August Zander, who did portraits, and also to me has been a huge cornerstone of my photography.
Okay, lovely. I think, let's take a break now, and we can continue with the next round of questions very soon.
Great.
Yeah. And we are back for the second part.
So, let's continue our conversation. I asked you earlier about your influences when it comes with photography. I will ask you now what happens when it comes with painting. Like, what painters have influenced, if it have happened in your practice?
I have also been infatuated with painting at a particular time of my life. When I first moved to the Netherlands and Belgium more than 10 years ago, I was very much exposed to the Flemish masters and the Baroque painting, and medieval painting even, and that has very much influenced the way that I think about photography, and it even led to one of my projects that is about religious painting and photography, in which I make the connection that the way that people who are believers behave when it comes to the deity, to the divine, can be similar to the way that art lovers behave towards art. So yeah, painting is inherent to whatever we do. Painting has been there for thousands of years, and definitely it's in everybody's minds. But how about photography? Photography is much younger as an art form. How has that influenced your work? And do you have some photographers or some photographs in particular that you are fond of?
Yeah, that's a very good question, also in relation to what you said earlier, because I really struggled with photography in general. While studying, I took a class in photography and I didn't finish. I did all the process, but I didn't do the exam. I was really struggling when taking photographs, especially on the street. So when it comes to the street photography, I really struggle to take, especially with people, and especially in my painting practice. As you can see here, there are no portraits. Well, I worked with portraiture, but I really struggled with it. So I really try. I definitely prefer still life and architecture and street views and nature morte, etc. But definitely photography has influenced me in my everyday practice artistically with painting very much. There are many photographers that I so love, Diane Arbus, Walker Evans, as I said, Frank. That's also because like the history of painting and photography, sometimes it's so like connected when it comes with Canaletto, then Vermeer, or even Giovanni Battista Moroni. He was a painter, was one of the biggest portrait painters in the 16th century. He was so photographic. You can kind of touch the dresses, the fabric that he painted, that he portrayed. But when it comes, with portraiture, I really struggled. So yeah, definitely photography influences me every day, and I'm working actually now more and more with photography. I take photos and I work with painting after then. And also, you know, just I take photos of different moments because I work with oil painting that requires different layers, stage 2, 3, 4, up to 5 stages, layers. So I take photos and I use Photoshop, for instance. So that's kind of a strict relationship with painting and photography today. And according to that, I wanted to ask you, how do you relate to this thin boundary between fiction and reality today? Because when it comes with photography, you have to edit. You edit the photos, right?
I would argue that every photo is an edited photo. There's no right way to present a photo. Even in the darkroom, you had to come up with a specific brightness and a specific contrast. Even if we let everything to do with the software that we chose for our camera, or for our laptop, or for the printer, it is a decision on how to paint it, to print it, and how not to print it. So any pictures has to be a little bit edited in order for the photographer to present their own vision of what they wanted to convey. And that is where photography lies as an art. Photography is not about depicting reality. It cannot depict reality, it's impossible. Reality happened. Reality is not a moment, reality is a continuum. Reality is not in black and white, usually reality is in colors. So photography in that sense is by its nature surreal, because it's a slice of time and a slice of space, and it cannot interpret things, it cannot help us, give us information. The only thing that it can do is to evoke emotion or evoke ambiguity, and that's why it is beautiful and it can be an artwork. I think that editing is just a part of it. Seeking reality, seeking the truth through photography or through art in general, I think it's a loss of time.
Okay, that's a really interesting point that leads me to ask you, why do you work with black and white? Because you focus mainly on that. That's kind of black and white. You see in art history, it has a certain technique, grisaille, tones of grays, to work to get like a sculptural effect. But like you were saying earlier on, you said also with drawing, so there is kind of a thin line that connects painting, drawing, sculpture, and eventually photography. Why black and white?
I find that black and white helps us get away from reality as fast as possible. You can never, in photography, you can never get away from reality totally, because what you use as a prime matter is the things that you see in your everyday life. So you use reality as a prime matter, but you merge it with your subjectivity, with your imagination, with your subconscious, and you produce something else. It's this merging that makes the artistic happening take place, and that is inherent to each person. That's why every artist works in a different way, because it has to put a part of themselves, their personality, inside the painting. For me, black and white helps me get out of the real world and get into this balanced, dreamlike world more easily. Of course, I'm not saying that you can't do that with color as well. There are many photographers, especially after the 60s, when color became more prevalent, that managed to use color in different ways to evoke emotions or to make photographs even more surreal. But for me, black and white is the way that my favorite photographers photograph, and they influence me. So I continue that part. I cannot see the world when I photograph. I cannot see the world in colors. It's only in black and white.
Okay, that's very interesting, and that leads me to what we discussed earlier about the emotional investment when taking a shot, the Zen moment. Somewhat that it's really connected to me when I decide what to paint. Somewhat when I can take a photo, but also I can also think about something else in dreams rather than actually. The most interesting state is when I'm really tired, when I sleep like just few hours per night, and then I'm so tired, but at some point I just see images that really strikes me that I want to paint. But also I work with photography, that's reality. But when does poetry come? Is there a poetic moment that strikes you and you decide that you identify it as a Zen moment?
I think it might be a bit less romantic than people might think, but photography is about two moments. One moment is when you take the picture, when you click, and the other moment is when you edit the picture and you choose out of hundreds or thousands of pictures, you choose which ones to keep and which ones to throw away. So both these things are interconnected, and the photographer needs to learn to appreciate both moments, both the moment on the street when he takes a picture and the moment when he chooses the right one. So definitely there is a Zen moment when you click, when you know that everything is right in the universe, and this is the right moment to find balance in what is in front of you, but also finding the good picture amongst hundreds of others that are not so good is part of the thing. So it's something that it doesn't happen at one time, but it extends to time, because photography process is also about rejecting the things that you did in the past and only keeping the real important ones.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because it's kind of similar with painting, because you find the image and then you eventually decide to stop a painting that can go indefinitely.
That's very nice.
So, and deadlines, sometimes can stop it, but also you have to take a decision. So thank you very much. I think we'll have to stop now. Thank you very much for joining us, and let's hope to meet again.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you for being here, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
See you.